Hello guys, welcome to Priceless Stories and Tales. Before we start, I will plead to every one of you to subscribe to the channel to enjoy more stories from Priceless. Please, do well to turn on your notifications bell for subsequent stories. Also hit the like button and share this video. It means the world to us. Thank you. Kapai, 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 who is here? I want to buy food. The young mechanic's voice echoed through the small restaurant as he knocked on the wooden counter with his oil-stained knuckles. His torn work clothes hung loose on his thin frame, and black grease covered his hands like ugly gloves. The fat restaurant owner, Mama Ngozi, looked up from her pot of bubbling stew. Her eyes grew angry like storm clouds. Get out of here. I thought I told you never to come to my shop again. You poor and good-for-nothing young man. She waved her wooden spoon in the air like a weapon. You smell like old motor oil and trouble. The other customers turned to stare. Some laughed and pointed their fingers. Others shook their heads in shame, but one kind man, Uncle Tunde, stood up from his table. His heart was soft like butter in the sun. Please, Mama Ngozi, Uncle Tunde said, pulling out some crumpled Naira notes from his pocket. Let me pay for his food. Everyone deserves to eat. Mama Ngozi snatched the money, but her face stayed angry, like an angry masquerade. She served the food on a cracked plate and slammed it on the counter. Take this and go, and please, don't come here again. You are bad for my business. The mechanic's eyes filled with tears, but he ate quickly and quietly. As he left, he whispered to Uncle Tunde, Thank you, sir. God will bless you. His voice was soft like morning breeze, but his heart was heavy like a bag of stones. This young man's name was Darling Okafor, but nobody in Alaba Market Township knew his real story. They only saw his dirty clothes and empty pockets. But if they could see into his heart, they would find secrets bigger than the Lagos Lagoon. Darling was born to Chief Okafor, one of the richest oil men in all of Nigeria. His father owned oil wells that stretched from Lagos to Port Harcourt. Their family house in Victoria Island was so big that birds got lost flying over it. Darlington had gone to the best schools in London and America, where he learned to speak many languages and understand big business. But Emeka's heart was broken like a cracked mirror. Every girl who came to him only wanted his father's money. They smiled at his expensive cars, but never looked into his eyes. They loved his gold watches, but never cared about his dreams. When he turned 25, he made a decision that shocked his family, like thunder in dry season. I want to find real love, he told his father one evening as they sat in their golden living room. I will go and live like a poor man. Only then will I know who loves me for me. His father, Chief Okafor, was angry at first. You are crazy like a goat in the rain, he shouted. Why throw away everything we have built? But Emeka's mind was made up like concrete. He took only small money and came to live in Alaba Township, where he learned to fix cars and motorcycles. For 2 years now, he had lived in a small room that was hot like an oven and worked with his hands that once wore diamond rings. Every morning, Darlington woke up when the cock crowed 3 times. His small room was so tiny that if he stretched his arms, he could touch both walls. The walls were thin like paper, and he could hear everything. Babies crying, couples fighting, and old people coughing through the night. He would wash his face with cold water from a plastic bucket and put on his only work clothes. The clothes had holes like a fishing net and smelled of oil and sweat. Then he would walk to his small mechanic shop under the big tree near the market. The tree was old and wise with branches that spread like open arms. It gave shade to many people but also dropped leaves that made the ground slippery when it rained. Emeka's tools were old and rusty, but his hands were skilled like a master craftsman. Darlington the oil boy, the other mechanics would call him, laughing until their bellies shook. Come and clean my tools. They treated him like a servant, not knowing that he once had servants of his own. The people of the township saw him as the poorest of the poor. Market women would shoo him away from their stalls like a stray dog. Don't touch my goods with those dirty hands, they would scream. Children would run after him, singing cruel songs. Emeka, Emeka, black like coal. Emeka, Emeka has no goal. Their words cut deep like sharp knives, but Darlington smiled and waved at them anyway. One bright morning, when the sun was painting the sky gold and pink, a young woman walked into the township. Her name was Adunni, and she was beautiful like a flower after rain. Her skin was smooth like silk, and her eyes sparkled like stars in the night sky. She had come from the village to find work in Lagos. Her family was poor like church mice, and she carried all her belongings in one small bag. Her clothes were simple but clean, and she walked with her head high like a queen. The men in the township saw her, and their eyes grew wide, like dinner plates. They followed her around, like bees following honey. The rich trader, Alhaji Musa, sent his boys to call her. The bus driver, Brother Jide, offered her free rides. Even the pastor's son, Samuel, suddenly started combing his hair neat. But Adunni was not interested in any of them. She found work helping Mama Kemi sell vegetables in the market. Every day, she would pass by Emeka's workshop under the tree. "Good morning, brother," she would say with a voice sweet like sugar. While other people looked at Darlington with disgust, Adunni looked at him with kind eyes. "Good morning, sister," Darlington would reply, his heart jumping like a grasshopper. For the first time in 2 years, he felt something warm in his chest. As weeks passed, the other men in the township noticed that Adunni was kind to Emeka. This made them angry, like hornets in a broken nest. "How can a beautiful girl like that talk to a dirty mechanic?" Alhaji Musa complained to his friends. "We must stop this nonsense." They decided to make life harder for Emeka. When customers brought their cars to him, the other mechanics would whisper lies in their ears. "Don't let that boy touch your car. He will spoil it, and you will cry tears of blood." Brother Jide, the bus driver, was the worst of all. He was fat like a pregnant goat and mean like a hungry hyena. One afternoon, he came to Emeka's workshop with his friends. "Mechanic boy," he called out loud enough for the whole market to hear, "I hear you think you can talk to fine girls like Adunni. You must be dreaming like a madman." Darlington continued working on the motorcycle in front of him. His hands were steady, but his heart was beating fast like a talking drum. "I am talking to you, oil boy." Brother Jai kicked the motorcycle, making it fall to the ground with a loud crash. "When big men like me are talking, you must listen." The people in the market gathered around like vultures. Some were laughing, others were shaking their heads, but nobody came to help Emeka. "Please, sir," Darlington said quietly, picking up the fallen motorcycle. "I don't want any trouble. I just want to work in peace." "Peace?" Brother Jide laughed until his big belly shook like jelly. "You think you deserve peace? You are nothing but a poor rat in the gutter." That evening, Darlington sat under his tree feeling sad, like a fish out of water. His body was tired, and his heart was heavy. He had no money to buy food, and his stomach was growling like an angry lion. An old woman came walking slowly toward him. It was Mama Kemi, the vegetable seller who employed Adunni. Her back was bent like a question mark, and she walked with a stick that was smooth from many years of use. "My son," she said, sitting down beside him on the ground, "I saw what happened today. I am sorry those foolish men treated you badly." Darlington looked up at her with surprise. In 2 years, only Uncle Tunde and now Mama Kemi had shown him kindness. "Here," she said, bringing out a small bowl of rice and stew from her bag. "Adunni cooked this for you. She said you looked hungry." Emeka's eyes filled with tears like rivers after rain. "Thank you, Mama. But why is Adunni kind to me? Everyone else sees me as worthless." Mama Kemi smiled, and her old face wrinkled like a dried leaf. "That girl has eyes that see beyond clothes and money. She sees your good heart, my son. Keep being patient. Good things come to those who wait." The annual Alaba Township Festival was approaching like a happy storm. Everyone was excited because it was the biggest celebration of the year. There would be music, dancing, food, and games. Even the governor was supposed to come and give a speech. All the young men were planning to ask Adunni to be their date for the festival. They bought new clothes that cost more than Darlington earned in 3 months. They went to the barber and made their hair shine like mirrors. Brother Jide bought a new agbada that was so big he looked like a walking tent. Alhaji Musa got new gold teeth that sparkled when he smiled. Pastor Samuel bought new shoes that squeaked when he walked like a mouse in trouble. But Darlington had nothing. His only clothes were his work clothes, and he had no money to buy anything new. He watched from his workshop as the other men paraded around the township like peacocks showing their feathers. The day before the festival, disaster struck like lightning from a clear sky. Brother Jide and his friends decided to play a cruel trick on Omeka. They waited until he went to buy water, then they destroyed his workshop. They scattered his tools everywhere like leaves in the wind. They poured oil on his workbench and broke his only chair. They even tore down the small tarpaulin that protected him from rain and sun. When Darlington returned, he found his livelihood destroyed. He fell to his knees and wept like a child who had lost his mother. The people gathered around, but instead of helping, many of them laughed. "Look at the oil boy crying," they pointed and mocked. "Maybe now he will know his place." Adunni was selling vegetables when she heard the commotion. She ran to the scene and saw Darlington kneeling among his broken things. Her heart broke like a clay pot dropped on stone. "Who did this?" she asked, her voice shaking with anger like thunder before rain. "The oil boy got what he deserved," Brother Jide said, cleaning his fingernails like he had done nothing wrong. "He was getting too proud." Adunni's eyes flashed with fire. "You are a wicked man, Brother Jide. How can you destroy someone's work? This is not the way of good people." "Mind your words, small girl," Brother Jide warned, stepping closer to her. "Or you might find yourself in trouble too." But Adunni was not afraid. She was small like a bird, but her courage was big like an elephant. "I will not be quiet when I see wickedness. You should be ashamed of yourself." She knelt down beside Darlington, fondly called Omeka because of his poor status, and helped him gather his scattered tools. Her dress got dirty, but she didn't care. "Don't worry, brother," she whispered. "God sees everything. He will reward both the good and the bad." That night, Darlington sat in his small room, staring at the ceiling. His heart was broken, and he felt like giving up. Maybe it was time to go back to his father's house and accept that he would never find true love. As he was thinking these sad thoughts, his old Nokia phone rang. He had kept it hidden for 2 years, and only one person had the number. "Hello, my son," came the voice of his father, Chief Okafor. "I heard about what happened to you today." Darlington was surprised, like a man who sees rain falling upward. "Papa? How did you know?" "I have been watching you from far away, my son. I have people who tell me how you are doing. I am proud of you for lasting this long." "But Papa, I failed. I couldn't even protect my small workshop." "No, my son, you have not failed. You have found something more precious than gold. You have found a girl who loves you when you have nothing. That is worth more than all the oil wells in Nigeria." Emeka's heart began to beat with new hope, like a drum calling people to celebration. "Tomorrow is the festival," his father continued. "It is time to show these people who you really are. But first, you must make sure that girl's heart is truly yours." The next morning, the whole township woke up buzzing with excitement like a beehive in spring. Colorful decorations hung from every tree and building. The air smelled of jollof rice, suya, and sweet chin-chin. Music played from big speakers that made the ground shake. Everyone dressed in their finest clothes. The women wore jele that rose high like mountains on their heads. The men wore agbada that flowed like rivers when they walked. Children ran around in new clothes that their parents had saved money for months to buy. But Darlington still had only his torn work clothes. He washed them as best as he could and mended the holes with thread. When he looked in his small mirror, he saw a man who looked poor and defeated. At the festival ground, all the township big men gathered around Adunni like moths around a bright light. They competed to see who could impress her most. "Adunni, my princess," Alhaji Musa called out, his gold teeth catching the sunlight. "Come and sit with me in the VIP section. I have cold drinks and meat pies waiting for you." "Beautiful Adunni," Brother Jide sang, his new agbada flowing in the wind. "Dance with me. I will show you moves that will make your head spin like a top." Even Pastor Samuel joined in. "Sister Adunni, let us pray together for God's blessing on this festival day." But Adunni politely refused all of them. She kept looking around the crowd, searching for someone special. When Darlington finally arrived at the festival, walking slowly in his patched clothes, the crowd noticed him immediately. Whispers spread through the gathering like wildfire. "Look, the oil boy came to the festival. What is he doing here? This is for decent people. Someone should tell him to go back to his garage." Brother Jide saw his chance to embarrass Darlington in front of everyone. He jumped onto the small stage where the musicians were playing and grabbed the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced, his voice booming through the speakers, "we have a special guest today. The poorest mechanic in all of Lagos has come to join our festival. The crowd laughed and pointed at Emeka, who stood there like a statue, his face burning with shame. Tell us, oil boy, Brother Jai continued. What gift did you bring for the beautiful Adunni? Maybe some motor oil? Or a rusty spare part? The laughter grew louder like thunder in the rainy season. Some people were laughing so hard they had to hold their stomachs. But Adunni had heard enough. She pushed through the crowd and stood beside Emeka, taking his dirty hand in her clean one. Stop this wickedness, she shouted, her voice carrying over the crowd like a bird song. This man has more goodness in his little finger than all of you have in your whole bodies. The crowd gasped like fish pulled from water. They could not believe that the most beautiful girl in the township was defending the poorest man. Adunni, have you gone mad? Brother Jayad asked from the stage, his confidence shaking like a leaf in the wind. Why are you protecting this useless boy? Because, Adunni said, her voice clear and strong like a bell. He is the only one among you who has never treated me like a prize to be won. He greets me with respect, not with hungry eyes. He works hard with his hands while you people only know how to tear others down with your mouths. The crowd fell silent like a forest before a storm. Even the children stopped running and playing. Darlington looked at Adunni with wonder in his eyes. No one had ever defended him like this before. His heart felt like it was growing too big for his chest. You see, Adunni continued, turning to face the crowd. You judge people by their clothes and their money, but character is not something you wear on your body. It lives in your heart. Just then, a convoy of black cars with tinted windows drove into the festival ground. The cars were so shiny they looked like mirrors, and they moved in a line like a parade of elephants. The crowd turned to look with curiosity. Who could be arriving in such expensive cars? The first car stopped, and a tall man in an expensive suit stepped out. He was followed by men in black suits who looked like bodyguards in action movies. The man was dignified like a king, with gray hair and kind eyes. That is Chief Okafor, someone whispered in recognition. The oil billionaire? What is he doing in our small township? Chief Okafor walked slowly through the crowd, which parted before him like the Red Sea. His eyes searched the gathering until they found what they were looking for. My son, he said, his voice carrying across the silent festival ground. Everyone turned to see who he was talking to. They followed his gaze and gasped when they saw he was looking at Emeka, the poor mechanic. Papa, Darlington said quietly, his voice barely above a whisper. The crowd exploded in confused murmurs like a pot of boiling water overflowing. Did he say Papa? The oil boy is Chief Okafor's son? That cannot be possible. Chief Okafor walked to his son and embraced him like a father who had found his lost child. You have been tested enough, my son. It is time to come home. Ladies and gentlemen, Chief Okafor announced, his voice commanding respect like thunder commands attention. Let me introduce you to my son, Darlington Okafor. For 2 years, he has lived among you as a poor mechanic, but he is actually the heir to the Okafor oil empire. The crowd stood frozen like statues in a museum. Mouths hung open like doors in the wind. Eyes were wide like full moons. Brother Jayad nearly fell off the stage. His new agbada suddenly felt heavy like a burden. Alhaji Musa's gold teeth stopped sparkling. Pastor Samuel's squeaky shoes went silent. But why? Mama Ngozi, the restaurant owner, asked with a shaking voice. Why would a rich man live like a poor person? Darlington stepped forward, still holding Adunni's hand. Because I wanted to find someone who would love me for who I am, not for what I have. I wanted to know what it feels like to be judged by my character, not by my father's money. He turned to look at each person who had mocked him. For 2 years, you showed me your true hearts. You kicked me when I was down. You laughed at my struggles. You destroyed my workshop because you thought I had no power to fight back. The crowd began to feel uncomfortable, like people sitting on thorns. They realized how badly they had treated someone who could have destroyed them with just one phone call. But there was one person, Darlington continued, his voice growing stronger like a river after rain, who showed me kindness when I had nothing to offer. One person who defended me when everyone else was attacking. He turned to Adunni, whose eyes were wide with shock and confusion. Adunni, you fed me when I was hungry. You spoke to me when others wouldn't. You defended me when I couldn't defend myself. Adunni's mind was spinning like a broken compass. The poor mechanic she had grown to care for was actually richer than anyone she had ever dreamed of meeting. But I didn't know, she stammered, her voice weak like a whisper in the wind. That's exactly why you are special, Darlington said, dropping to one knee right there in front of everyone. You loved me when you thought I was nobody. You cared for me when you thought I had nothing. That is the truest love in the world. From his pocket, he pulled out a ring that sparkled like a captured star. The crowd gasped so loud it sounded like a great wind. Adunni, will you marry me? Not because I am rich, but because we found each other when I was poor. Adunni looked at the ring, then at Emeka, then at the crowd of people who were all staring at her like she was performing magic. Her heart was beating so fast, she thought it might fly out of her chest like a bird. Emeka, she said, her voice trembling like leaves in a storm, I need to know something. When you were poor, when you had nothing, how did you feel when I was kind to you? Like I had found a treasure more valuable than gold. He answered without hesitation. And now that I know you are rich, how do you want me to feel? The same way. Because nothing about you has changed, and nothing about my feelings for you has changed. Adunni was quiet for a long moment. The whole festival ground was so silent you could hear a pin drop on cotton. Then she surprised everyone by stepping back from the ring. I cannot answer you now, she said, her voice clear and firm. When I cared for you, I thought you were a poor mechanic. Now I find out you are a billionaire's son. I need time to understand what this means. I need to know if my feelings are real or if they are confused by this new information. The crowd murmured in shock. Here was a girl refusing a proposal from one of the richest young men in Nigeria. Darlington looked at Adunni with surprise, but then his face broke into a smile brighter than sunrise. You are even more wonderful than I thought, he said, standing up and putting the ring back in his pocket. Why? Adunni asked, confused by his reaction. Because you are being honest with yourself and with me. You are not jumping at money like the others would. You want to make sure your heart is making the right choice. That shows me you are the right woman for me. Chief Okafor nodded with approval. This girl has wisdom beyond her years, he said to the crowd. She will make a good wife for my son when she is ready. The crowd was amazed. They had never seen anything like this before. A poor girl questioning her feelings for a billionaire? It was like seeing a fish climb a tree. But the older women in the crowd nodded with understanding. They knew that real love needed time to grow properly, like a good garden. As the reality of the situation sank in, the people who had mistreated Darlington began to feel fear creeping into their hearts like cold water. Brother Jai was the first to act. He jumped down from the stage and ran to Emeka, falling to his knees in the dust. Oga, please forgive me, he begged, his voice shaking like a leaf in a hurricane. I didn't know. I am very sorry for everything I did to you. Alhaji Musa pushed through the crowd, his face sweating like he had been running. Sir, please, I beg you with my whole heart. I was foolish. I will do anything to make it right. Even Mama Ngozi, the restaurant owner, came forward with tears streaming down her face like rivers. My son, I am sorry. I treated you badly. Please don't destroy my small business. One by one, all the people who had mocked and bullied Darlington came to beg for forgiveness. They threw themselves on the ground like people worshipping a god. But their fear was like a bad smell that couldn't be hidden. Darlington could see that they were not sorry for hurting him. They were only sorry that they had hurt someone powerful. Darlington looked at all the people begging at his feet. He had the power to destroy their lives with just one word to his father. He could close their businesses, take their houses, even have them arrested. But as he looked at them, he remembered the words his mother had taught him before she died. Forgiveness is not about the person who hurt you. It is about freeing your own heart from the poison of anger. Stand up, all of you, he said in a voice that was firm but not harsh. I forgive you. The crowd gasped in amazement. They could not believe their ears. But, Darlington continued, I want you to understand something. I forgive you not because I am afraid of you or because I need anything from you. I forgive you because carrying anger is like carrying fire. It burns the person holding it more than anyone else. He paused and looked at each face in the crowd. But I also want you to remember this day. Remember how you treated someone you thought was powerless. Remember how quickly you changed when you found out he had power. Let this teach you to treat everyone with respect, no matter what they look like or how much money they have. In the days that followed the festival, the whole township changed like a caterpillar becoming a butterfly. The story of Darlington and Adunni spread through Lagos like wildfire. and people came from far and wide to see the place where a billionaire had lived as a poor mechanic. Darlington decided to rebuild his workshop, but this time he made it bigger and better. Instead of working alone under the tree, he hired some of the unemployed young men in the township and taught them how to fix cars and motorcycles. "Why are you doing this?" one of the young apprentices asked him one day. "You have enough money to buy 100 workshops." "Because," Darlington replied, his hands busy with an engine, "work gives a man dignity. When you can earn your own bread, you can walk with your head high." He also helped Uncle Tunde, the kind man who had bought him food at the restaurant, to start his own small business. He gave Mama Kemi money to expand her vegetable stall and hire more girls like Adunni. But the biggest change was in how people treated each other. Children were taught to be kind to everyone, rich or poor. Market women stopped judging customers by their clothes. Even Brother Jide started helping people instead of bullying them, though everyone could see he was still afraid that Darlington might change his mind about forgiving him. While Darlington was transforming the township, Adunni was on her own journey of understanding. She continued working at Mama Kemi's vegetable stall, but now she spent her evenings thinking about her feelings. "Child, what is troubling your heart?" Mama Kemi asked her one evening as they closed the stall. "Mama, I am confused like a bird in a storm," Adunni replied. "When I thought Darlington was poor, I cared for him because he was kind and hardworking. Now I know he is rich, and I don't know if my feelings are the same or different." Mama Kemi, who was wise like an old owl, sat down beside her. "Let me tell you a story, my daughter. Once, there was a woman who found a small plant growing in the trash. She took it home and cared for it because she thought it was beautiful. Later, she discovered it was a very expensive flower. Did the flower change?" "No, Mama. The flower was always the same." "Exactly. The flower was always beautiful, whether she knew its value or not. The question is, did she care for it because it was beautiful or because she thought it might be valuable?" Adunni understood. She cared for it because it was beautiful. Then her feelings were real from the beginning. Learning its value later doesn't change what was already in her heart. 1 month after the festival, Darlington decided to test Adunni's feelings one more time. He knew that some people might think she was being clever, pretending to be unsure so she would look good. He arranged to meet her at the same restaurant where Mama Ngozi had first thrown him out. But this time, he came dressed in his expensive clothes, driving one of his father's cars. When Adunni saw him, she was struck by how different he looked. In his fine suit and shiny shoes, he looked like a prince from a fairy tale. But when he smiled, she saw the same gentle eyes that had looked at her with gratitude when she defended him. "You look very handsome," she said simply. "And you look beautiful as always," he replied. "But I have a question for you. Do you like me better this way, or the way I was before?" Adunni thought carefully before answering. "I like you both ways, but for different reasons. When you were dressed as a poor mechanic, I liked you because you were humble and hardworking. Now that you are dressed as a rich man, I can see the confidence that was always inside you, but the person inside is the same." She paused, then continued, "But if I had to choose, I would choose the mechanic." "Why?" Darlington asked, surprised. "Because that is when you needed kindness most. That is when your heart was most open to receiving love. Rich people get plenty of attention, but poor people need more kindness in the world." And Meka's heart swelled with joy like a balloon filled with air. This was exactly what he had hoped to hear. "Adunni," he said, taking her hands in his, "I have one more question for you. If I lost all my money tomorrow and became poor again, would you still want to be with me?" "Yes," she answered without hesitation. "Money can be lost, but a good heart cannot be taken away. And if I stayed rich but decided to use my money to help poor people instead of buying fancy things for myself, would you support me?" "Yes," she said again. "That would make me love you even more." Darlington reached into his pocket and pulled out the same ring he had offered her at the festival. But this time, it looked different to Adunni. Before, it had seemed like a symbol of wealth and status. Now, it looked like a symbol of love and commitment. "Adunni, will you marry me?" he asked again. "Will you help me build a life where we use our blessings to bless others?" This time, Adunni's answer came straight from her heart. "Yes, Emeka, I will marry you." Can I tell you this? My name is not a Mecca. I have myself the name to suit my poor lifestyle, Darlington told her, wearing smiles like an outfit. It's nothing, Adunni responded. 6 months later, Darlington and Adunni had the most beautiful wedding that Alaba Township had ever seen. But it was not beautiful because of expensive decorations or fancy clothes. It was beautiful because of the love that filled the air like sweet perfume. The wedding was held right in the township, under the same tree where Darlington had worked as a mechanic. Chief Okafor wanted to have it in a big hotel in Victoria Island, but Darlington insisted on having it where his real journey had begun. This is where I learned the value of true friendship, he told his father. This is where I found my wife. This is where I want to start my married life. People came from all over Nigeria to attend the wedding. Rich people came in expensive cars, and poor people came on foot, but everyone was treated the same. Everyone ate the same food, danced to the same music, and celebrated the same love. Uncle Tunde, who had bought Darlington food when he was hungry, was given the honor of giving the opening prayer. Mama Kemi, who had been like a mother to Adunni, helped her get dressed. Even Brother Jide was invited, and he came with tears in his eyes. I have learned that a man's worth is not in his pocket, but in his heart, he said to anyone who would listen. Instead of going to Dubai or Paris for their honeymoon like most rich couples, Darlington and Adunni decided to visit the villages where they had both grown up. They wanted to share their joy with the people who had shaped them. In Adunni's village, they built a new school and a health clinic. In Emeka's ancestral village, they dug new wells and built roads. But the most important thing they did was to listen to the stories of the old people and learn from their wisdom. Money is like water, one old man told them. If you try to hold it all for yourself, it will slip through your fingers. But if you let it flow to others, it will always come back to you. An old woman added, love is like a fire. If you keep it to yourself, it will die. But if you share it with others, it will grow bigger and brighter. These words became the guiding principles for their marriage and their life together. When they returned from their honeymoon, Darlington and Adunni started the Second Chance Foundation. The foundation's mission was to help people who had been judged unfairly or treated badly because of their appearance or social status. They opened skills training centers where young people could learn trades like carpentry, tailoring, and computer skills.